Welcome back to Ducks and Pucks. This is your host Mike Walters, along with my co-host Eddie Jones, and we're going to get you all caught up on that big sweep, Eddie, of the Jets there. That all the experts out there predicted, but we'll get you caught up on that. We're going to talk about some player injury news and players being called up. We'll also give you a preview on that Calgary series. But let's go back to Game 3, Eddie. The Ducks traveled up to Winnipeg. They had the big whiteout. The fans were loud, all dressed in their white jerseys for the Jets, and this was a wild game, especially second period. But the Ducks pulled this one out, and at that point, it put the Jets down 3-0.
Yeah, and I gotta say that's probably one of the craziest atmospheres I've ever seen. Pretty much everybody was wearing white except for, the odd few Ducks fans you saw in and out of the arena. Maybe there's maybe like 10 Ducks fans in the arena, which was just crazy to see. And then, I was worried going into this game. I thought the crowd was going to be too much for them. We talked about how, the crowd can play a big part, even though, Winnipeg wasn't dominant at home this season. They were still good, but just watching them come into that arena was crazy. And then, seeing Lee Stepniak get that first goal and the crowd just erupts, and you get that worry in the pit of your stomach that, this could get out of hand early if the crowd gets behind it. And, obviously it was ended up being a crazy game and another another heart attack comeback by the Cardiac Kids. And geez, just what a hockey game.
Yeah, I think like you said, that first period there, the Jets came out really strong, and the Ducks were having to, ice the puck a lot, try and keep the puck out of the zone. I think the big play really was Cam Fowler's goal there at the end of the first period because you had that crowd behind the Jets, you had them, carrying the play, and to come out of that first period 1-1, Eddie, I think that was a huge victory for the Ducks in this game.
Yeah, you kind of quieted the crowd with that late goal by Cam Fowler. Kind of stunned everybody and just took a better atmosphere for yourself and into that second period being tied. And you kind of calm the building down if you can do that in Winnipeg, going into the second period.
Yeah, and then the Ducks carried the momentum in the second period. Corey Perry scored, and it looked like the Ducks were going to take it to the Jets. And then, of course, the Jets came back with two goals, one by Myers and one by Wheeler. They ended up going up ahead, and then Silverberg scored, and then Little scored on the bad turnover there by Fowler. At the end of the second, and then after all that, heart attack mania going on in the second period, we found ourselves, looking at the Jets again. Down by a goal going into the third, Eddie.
Yep, and of course, in same fashion as the first two games, Kessler gets a late goal. Just to leave it almost as late as possible. Not as late as the Silverberg goal, but just leave it late so you can give everybody a little bit of some panic. And then getting Raquel with the tip off Boschman's shot. There was a couple of chances we could have ended it before that too in overtime, where a bunch of flurries in front of the net, and then finally Raquel getting the tip in off above Boschman's shot. And geez, they set an NHL record too with being, first time a team's been down into going to the third and winning those three games. And she's just typical Ducks that we've seen all season, and another one goal game win.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing. I mean, if you look at it during the regular season, they had 18, come from behind wins when either trailing at the beginning of the third or at some point in the third period, and to get three more in a row, in the playoffs was huge. But I think it was even huge, more of a big deal against the Jets in this home game, with the crowd and the Ducks able to, weather that second period storm. Probably the part that the Ducks really needed to work on in this game, Eddie, was getting the puck out of the zone, which we talked about before had been some problems. A couple turnovers here and there. And I think the Ducks really could have won this game in regulation. Not to take anything away from the Jets. I mean, the Jets played a really tough game, but as we'll see as we talk about Game 4, the Ducks definitely cleaned up those turnovers, Eddie.
Yeah, yeah, you saw it. And it's not just the turnovers; it's the costly turnovers in your own end, and just about three or four of them just getting either leading to a goal or leading to a good chance for the Jets. And that's something that obviously we see in Game 4 that they cleaned up. But when you got a good, fast, physical team like the Jets, and it's something we're used to seeing the Ducks causing turnovers in their own end, and the Jets kind of flipped the script in this game, and we're happy to get away with the win.
Yeah, and then from this, the Ducks carried the momentum over to Game 4 and had the chance to sweep, which obviously, as you all know, is what happened. But this was a different variety game. Jets came out scoring first, a little getting the goal in the power play. They obviously came out with a flurry again, and then Edom just scoring that absolutely filthy goal. I couldn't even believe the puck went in. After he made the move and then shot the puck high, I was just amazed at the move that he did there. And again, getting that goal back and the Ducks being tied at the end of one, and then Cogliano getting a nice goal in the second, and the Ducks went in the third period, and we actually had a lead in this one, Eddie.
Yeah, and coming finally a good second period, a solid game. They can limit them to 9 shots and grabbing a goal and escaping with the lead for the first time. And you're kind of worried here. Is that, are we going to be able to hold the lead too? And Ryan Kessler comes through. He was been great on the on the draws for us all playoffs so far. Coming into this game was great tonight, and then he potted 2 goals in the third period to put them away. Just a great effort from him and just a good game, to save us a heart attack for sure was was finally a nice little treat.
Yeah, and I mean, you know what amazed me about this team too, Eddie, is not only the fact that we swept the Jets. I mean, I know you and I talked about this last week, and we said that the Ducks could win in five. We said at most six. You can go back and listen. That was our prediction, despite the experts out there telling us that it was going to be the Jets in six or seven. But what amazed me the most about this Ducks team was the ability to go into Winnipeg with that crazy crowd. And I mean, crazy in a good way. They were just obnoxiously loud supporting their team, which was amazing on their own end. But for the Ducks to go up there and beat them in that building 2 times, you have to give some serious props to the Ducks team for being able to go up there. And some of the quotes, I think the mentality was really big on this, Eddie, was Perry and Kessler. They talk about then some of the chants that were going on. We heard the Katy Perry ones, which some of the media made as a bigger deal, but and Kessler talking about playing the villain and stuff. And I think actually all that chanting and all the stuff actually worked to the Ducks' advantage in these 2 games, Eddie.
Yeah, and what two better guys to have than Perry and Kessler, two guys who pretty much played the villain in their whole careers in any arena they go into, and they thrive under it, and even Getzlaf too. And there are some players who they'll cave under the pressure and the taunting from the fans. But, we've got Anderson in that who stays calm and he doesn't succumb to the taunts. And then Kessler and Perry just feed off of it. And obviously Kessler having a strong game and a great series, Perry having a great series. They took the pressure and they thrived under it. And I think just looking at this last game too, just what a big game. The last game too. You could argue the turnovers. We could have won the game a little bit more, but winning 5-2 in such a elimination game, they're fighting. You win 5-2 in the opposing building is just a great result for everybody.
Yeah, and we talked about that before. The problem with the Ducks before was that killer instinct in winning those elimination games. Not to bring up bad memories, but in Detroit we had 2 chances 2 seasons ago. We couldn't get it done. We got it done against Dallas, but we had to come back and win that in overtime. And then obviously our rivals, we couldn't get it done in 2 games also. So the Ducks were 1-4 in the last 5 attempts, and for them to do it in this fashion on the road in Winnipeg just shows me that they're ready for the long haul. Which I mean, we said they were ready for the long haul already, but I mean they're really ready for the long haul and they're really hungry, Eddie.
Yeah, and when you got potential, what if you beat the Flames and you got potential, even going to the Saddle Dome is going to be tough too, and potentially playing the Blackhawks and going to United Center in the Western Conference Finals and playing any of the teams, possibly Detroit, Montreal, going to the Bell Center or Joe Louis Arena, just showing that they can go to these tough arenas and win games is going to be big, the farther they go in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you watched the Calgary Vancouver series, which, as we all know now, the Ducks are going to play Calgary in the second round, and we got a big preview for you on that in just a minute. But when you watch those games, you see all the Vancouver fans are going nuts, and then you see all the Calgary fans as well, dressed in red, going nuts. So, it's going to be a hostile environment when the Ducks go up there again for games 3 and 4. But I'm really not worried about it, Eddie. I mean, we'll talk about it. Calgary series is not going to be a cakewalk, of course. I'm not going to claim that by any stretch of the imagination. But the calmness that this team has and the will to win, and now the will to to close out a team as well, it really makes the Ducks. One of the front runners in the playoffs. And I remember sending that question to Dan on the radio, and they joked about it too. That most of the other media isn't paying attention, but I'll tell you right now, the other teams in the NHL, they're paying attention to the Ducks, Eddie.
Yeah, you gotta, this Calgary team has a lot of confidence. They've got a lot of young guys, and they've showed some, with the lack of experience, they've shown some great confidence and some fight, and they've shown that all season. Obviously, being, just I think they were third in comeback wins in the third period, and in the season. Obviously, we were first, and they just show a lot of fight. They kind of remind me of us a little bit. They don't have the depth that we do, but they've shown they can. Some guys can step up. Matt Stage and David Jones and Michael Phil, and that line for them has been big for them in the playoffs. And bringing in a rookie like Sam Bennett, who's had a great playoffs for them so far too. And then obviously that Monahan, Hudler, Goudreau line has been one of the best lines in hockey throughout the whole season. So it's going to be a tough series, and we said the same thing about the Winnipeg series. They're a fast team. They can be physical when they want to, and they'll hurt you on the power play. But I realistically think the Ducks are just they're too deep. I think they've got too much experience. They're just I think it's gonna be too much for the Flames. Well, it's gonna be a great series no matter what. So.
Now, we had several fan questions this week about a lot of things, and let's address probably some of those questions now, and then we can go into the series preview. But one of the questions, and it's another one that Dan and Steve also addressed on the radio as well, is the Ducks win in 4 games. Now you have this time off. We know that the series is going to start either on Thursday or Friday. Do you look at this, Eddie, as a bad thing or a good thing? Because you can win early and rest players, but then you're also not in, your game phase mode, hyped up, ready to go, every other night. What's your take on it? A lot of mixed reactions from fans on this.
Yeah, I know it's hard. You could take it from two ways. You could say after such a physical series with, such a hard-hitting series, it's good to get the rest, and you don't want that kind of series to go to, 5, 6, 7 games where then you got to play 2 or 3 days after that last game, and you're tired, and guys got small injuries that they play through, and having this rest is going to be good for that. But then you take it from the other aspect, is Calgary is going to be fresher off the ice, and but I don't know. I don't really think. I think it's a good thing. I don't think Anaheim's going to come out slow. I think they've got practice obviously, and I think they're going to be ready for the game no matter what. And having that rest after such a physical series with the Jets is going to be a big thing for us. So I definitely think it's a good thing having all that rest and getting the sweep.
And I agree with you on that, Eddie. I mean, some of the practice news that came out too is that Wagner's back in skating, Gibson's back in skating as well. For the Ducks to come out of that series, not only go up there, beat the Jets in those 2 games, win the series in 4, and basically come out with no major injuries. The only one really was Wagner in the series, which that's a pretty big deal, Eddie, because this is a long haul. We're talking about a 2 month stretch here of playoff hockey if we can carry it on.
Yeah, and that's big too, because you don't know if you go another game, of game five or game six, if somebody important gets injured, then you have to bring another guy in, and in a physical series like that, you never know. You see a guy go down, and that changes the outlook for the next series. So I think it was big to get out of that series early and get everybody rested and have that time off to get guys who are out healed and ready to go.
Yeah, and that brings us to another point that I brought up, and it was kind of funny the reaction I got from a lot of people from this. But you can go on the TSN website, and there's also one for the AHL too, where they talk about the players that are either being called up or recalled. I put out some of the links before, but the Ducks called up and recalled a couple players during this time, and there was a little bit of confusion. I know some people were like, "Hey, the official team didn't say anything, and what's going on?" But I just wanted to take this time to clarify what happens during this time of year for every playoff team is they call up players from the minor leagues, especially when the minor league teams are done for the season and they're not in the playoffs. And basically, the reason for this is they get together a group of players that are on a practice squad. So the Ducks recalled a bunch of players. We mentioned some of the names out there. Niacin, who had played already up there, Manson, Fistrick. Those guys were all recalled. You see Theodore on the list, O'Brien, Montour, Freiberg. A few other players that have been called up that haven't played. But just to clarify, what it is all these players, they're not necessarily playing with the team, but they're on a practice squad and they're ready to go in case of an injury, Eddie.
Yeah, and I think you see this from pretty much every team, and the Jets were doing it too. And the list for us is a little bit longer. We had a lot of guys. Our season was over in Norfolk, and just like you said, it's just to have these guys ready if guys go down with injury. Thompson's out, so you bring Wagner in, or if they both go down, you can bring somebody else in from Nason or somebody else from that list, and it's just to be safe. And to if you keep them down there, and then you wait till an injury comes to call them up, you got to bring them all the way up from Norfolk. It's just easier to have them in Anaheim and ready to go, and traveling with the team if necessary, and just being game ready if they have to get into a game.
Yeah, exactly. And some of you may see the term out there too, which is a term that's not familiar to everybody, but it's a term called black aces. And if you see that term out there, there's some people that have been throwing it around on Twitter and Facebook. Basically, what it is it goes back to earlier days. I can put the link up, but I believe it was the 1940s where there was a coach that had a team of players that when they got injured, or if they just irritated him, he put them down on a practice squad, and he referred to them as the Black Aces. Basically as the guys to bring back up when either they played better or they weren't injured. Kind of like in poker, you have your ace up your sleeve and whatnot. It's kind of the connotation there, but that's what that term is. And I'll put the link up so everybody can go look. There's a little history on it. There's actually some hats and T-shirts they have too that you can buy, but that's a term that you'll see that they refer to when they recall players or call players up during the playoffs. And looking at Calgary, Eddie, that I saw on one of their accounts on Twitter, the Ducks have got 10 black aces basically, and Calgary's got 17. So they got some players in reserve. Obviously, a lot of these players may not see any time or whatnot, but they're gunning for the long haul, and they got a lot of reserves too, Eddie.
Yeah, they've got a few injuries too to guys like Paul Byron and Smead and Giordano, obviously, and Setaguchi's not playing. Rafael Diaz. They've got a lot of guys who are just still injured and not able to play in the lineup. So that's something you got to look at for them too. Is a lot of guys who could be coming back for them. Not big guys. I don't see Giordano. He obviously we saw that he was skating in practice, but just because he's skating, it doesn't mean anything. He tore a bicep, so it's all about movement and puck handling and everything for him. And just they want to make sure he's 100% ready. They don't want to rush him back, and then he's done for next season. They're gonna need him then. And I think with a lot of these guys coming in, I think they've pretty much they like their team and they like how they're going right now with the four lines they have. And, I think the only big thing for them would be getting Giordano back, but we'll have to wait and see on that.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be the key for the Flames. And we've gotten more questions too, obviously, this week. A lot of questions, last week and this week about the lineups, what's going to happen. Obviously, I'm not a mind reader, and even with the people I talk to, they keep the injuries and the lineups, pretty close and tight within the team. But the way it looks to me, Eddie, going against this Jets, or I'm sorry, against now the Flames team, it looks like the Ducks are definitely going to go with more speed, and I would suspect that Wisniewski and Sekach would definitely get back in the lineup, Eddie.
Yeah, and when you look at who could drop out, Tim Jackman is a guy who might drop out. You don't need that physical presence, possibly. It's not like Calgary's not a big team either. They've got Brandon Bollig down there. Michael Fairland's a pretty physical guy. David Jones can be physical when he wants to, too. Joe Corborn, but other than that, they've got a lot of skilled guys, and Goudreau and Bennett and Hoodler, Backlund. So and they're one of the faster teams in the league too. So I think you gotta look at the guys we could bring in and guys who could drop out. Bolesky has no points, but I think they like how that Kessler, Silverberg, Bolesky line is played, and you got to think that Maroon, Getzlaff, and Perry are going to play together, and then you look at we got Raquel, Palmieri, and Cogliano play together the last game. Palmieri with no points, even though he played a pretty good game four. You could see a guy like Sekats jump in there, or if even Fleischman go back to playing the wing, and then Jackman could drop out. So I think realistically, if they want to drop Palmieri, I think Jackman's pretty much gone, and you either see Sekats or Fleischman go in, and possibly Palmieri too if they decide that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the top two lines, the Ducks shouldn't change them at all. I think you got to leave Maroon up there with the Twins, and definitely Silverberg and Kessler together. Even with Bolesky, you go back to that game three against the Jets, and I mean that hit he put on Parody that allowed the Ducks to get that third goal in that game was just amazing. So his physical presence, along with Kessler's presence, has definitely been a key on that second line. So I don't see them changing that either. And I agree with you. I think Sekatch jumps in either on the third or fourth line, depending, if Nate Thompson's ready to go, he's been skating as well. Or Wagner, they've all been skating. The time ops help them. I don't have an official update on whether or not they're going to be in, but I would see, hopefully one of those two in, like you said, and Fleshman moving to the side, and then Sekach popping in there, and then on defense, I think Wisniewski would pop in this series. It'd be tough to see who would go out. I don't know. Before it's kind of been a rotation between Dupree, Stoner, and Wisniewski. But what do you think on the defense, Eddie? Who do you think would draw in there?
It's hard to say. I like how Dupre's played. He's played physical, and he also has 2 assists for us. And we've hated on Stoner on a pretty often during the regular season. For good reason at times. And he actually had a pretty good series. I'm not gonna say he had a great series like some people were saying, and I'm not gonna say he had a terrible series like other people were saying as well. I think he had a pretty good one. He wasn't he made some mistakes and that could have led to goals, and then he saved a goal on another occasion, and he was pretty physical as well. But it's I think you want to go with the quicker guys, and I think Dupre is probably a little bit quicker than Stoner, and then obviously you want to get Wisniewski in there. I don't think they're not going to play him all playoffs, and we see Bruce switch up the lineups a lot. I think this is one of the first occasions and that we've seen him pretty much keep the same lineup, so. I wouldn't be surprised to see him keep the same lineup going into Calgary, but I would expect that they'd want to get a little bit more speed and probably pop Wisniewski in on the blue line in favor of Stoner.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that's what we're going to see. Obviously, time will tell. We still got so much time. I mean, I know everybody's chomping at the bit because here we are on Sunday, and we haven't had a game since Wednesday, and the Ducks aren't going to play till Thursday or Friday. So that's kind of what I've been hearing. Similar things too, going around. But obviously, we'll find out more probably come Tuesday or Wednesday at practice. We'll know a little bit more information on that, but. Let's take the time now and let's just match up these teams. You go back to the regular season. The Ducks own the season series 3-1-1. Three of the games were decided by one goal, and then you had two wild games that were decided 6-3, one in favor of each team. Eddie, what do you think about this? You think it's going to be a Wild West shootout, or what? I mean, a lot of high scoring in those matchups that we had with the Flames.
Yeah, and a lot of goalies used too. Rama was in for one game, which he won. Hiller was in for 3 games, and he was 1 and 2, and Yoni Ordio was in for another game. Well, believe he came in as a backup, but he was in, and he lost that game, and then the Ducks had Freddie in for 3 games, where he won 2 and lost in I believe a shootout, and I think Gibson was in for 2 games as well. Um, but I could see it being a shootout again. It was high scoring throughout all the season, and these are two of the highest scoring teams as well, especially the Flames during the regular season. And you look in the playoffs so far, the Ducks are averaging 4 goals per game, and the Flames are averaging 3 goals per game. So, we saw 3-6-3 games in the season. I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple more in this series.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of offense, if you look at it, during the season, the Ducks scored 236 goals and the Flames scored 241. You look in the playoffs, the Ducks have scored 16 and the Flames have scored 18. Of course, the Ducks only played 4 games, so that's a little bit distorted there. I mean, the Flames have had more goals, but we've scored more per game. So I kind of look more towards the edge, with the Ducks on the offense, Eddie. Not by a long, margin, but I like the way the Ducks are playing. The top two lines have been rolling. We've been getting timely goals from the third and fourth line. And when you look at the Flames lineup, I mean, it's more, I would say, the first and the third line, Eddie, that we're going to have to worry about with them.
Yeah, and you could always Coburn and Backlund were good in the season, and Sam Bennett's been on the left wing of that line, and he's been really good for them as well. And he's been good on the power play for them, and you just got to watch out. Obviously that first line for them has been amazing for them, and it's pretty much the reason they've gotten into the playoffs this year. And in the playoffs, Ferland, Stajan, and David Jones have stepped up, and and they're seeing some secondary scoring, which is going to be important for them. But I think if you got to stop that first line, you got to watch out because the Canucks try to do that too, and they try to shut down the Monahan Hoodler line for the first few games, but that third line stepped up, so they've shown they can score from other lines in their team, and we're gonna have to be ready and get the matchups right.
Yeah, I agree. And and another key, and we always talk about this, is the faceoffs. The Ducks in the playoffs are 53.9%, and Calgary's dead even at 50. And you got to be mindful of that too. That's with Fletchman coming in and playing there. I mean, it's really been Kessler, Getzlaf, and Raquel carrying the load at center. Kessler's been a beast at over 63%. Um, Getzlaf's been a little bit over 50%, and then you've got Raquel just under 50%. But I think, that's going to be the key for the Ducks if they're really going to slow them down, not only get the matchups, like you said, Eddie, but I mean, and we talk about it all the time, is the faceoffs, special teams and 5-on-5, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's why I give the Ducks a slight edge. I think that they're going to take it in the faceoffs, especially if Wagner or Thompson get back in.
Yeah, and you look at on the Flames on their face-off too. Monahan 43%, and Stajan was their best guy at 61, and the only other guy over 50 was Josh George with 53, and their other center Michael Backlund was at 47. So you could realistically you could see Kessler maybe match up against Stage and the two best face-off guys, and hope Kessler gets the advantage on him, and that's going to be big. And then maybe you see the two first lines match up against each other face-off wise with Getzlaf against Monahan, and I think we talked about this before the playoffs, before the beginning of the season too, and how Kessler is going to be big for the face-offs, and obviously getting Thompson back is if he gets back into is going to be big in that category too. And I think you got to win those key face-offs, and we saw Kessler do that, and on a lot of occasions it led to some goals, or some good chances. So it's going to be big going into this series as well, just like it was in the Jet series.
Yeah, and shifting gears over on the defensive side, the Ducks have given up 226 goals in the regular season, and the Flames gave up 216. So again, the numbers are pretty close there. In the playoffs, the Ducks only gave up 9 goals in 4 games, and Calgary's given up 14 goals in 6 games. So I kind of lean more towards the Ducks also again on this one, Eddie, on the defense. I think the Ducks are a little bit more solid there. And I think that's going to be key for them. And I mean, granted, we'll talk about it a little bit more, but I think the goalie situation is going to weigh on this too. But I give the edge slightly to the Ducks, Eddie.
Yeah, I think the Flames have a pretty good defense. Obviously, with no Giordano, the main minute eaters are going to be Wideman and Brody and Russell, and all three of them are offensive defensemen, just like we have Lindholm and Fowler and Vatanen. But I think Brody likes to pinch in the play a little bit, and you can see that with Russell too. And they're all defensively responsible too. I'm not gonna try and say that they're not, but I think if you look at the decor and you compare them, I think the Ducks have a slight advantage there too, especially if Wisniewski jumps in, and then you gotta say that if you're comparing the six defensemen to theirs, we should have an advantage there.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Ducks defense is definitely going to have a little bit of advantage if you draw Wisniewski in and we go more for the speed instead of the physicalness because that's going to be the key. The only thing is on the offense for Calgary, they do have some speed, so the Ducks are going to have to adjust their game. It's not going to be a Jets type of team that likes to get the puck in front and grind it out and battle it out. It's going to be I think it's going to be a lot more north south hockey in this series, Eddie.
Yeah, I think so, but you don't want to back away from what was successful in the first round. I think you still want to play physical. I think you want to play that forecheck game, and you know, I just you gotta be careful. You gotta when you go in on the forecheck, you gotta make sure that the transition play isn't gonna hurt you, and they're gonna get a goal off a break if Vatanen or Lindholm or Dupre pinch in, and that's the only thing you gotta be careful with. We didn't see that as much from the Jets, and they did have some quick players too, but you always got to be careful when you go in for that forecheck game, and I think they played it perfectly in the first series against the Jets. So, just play the same game you got and just be wary of their speed, and I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if you work the forecheck, make sure that there's none of those errant passes, in the middle of the ice for the turnovers. Use the glass, use the boards. I think you're right. I think that's the key is for the Ducks to maintain the puck have the better puck possession, which they improved their numbers in that first round. And this is the series that everyone's saying that those stats don't really matter, which is kind of true because both these teams don't fit that puck possession mold like some of the other teams in the league. But the Ducks got better at that in the first round, and I think if they do that in this series, it'll be key because, like you said, the Flames can really counterpunch. And I don't think the Ducks should get in a wild wild west shootout with them. I mean they did before, and it's paid off, but it's also not paid off. I think you're right. I think the Ducks got to stay with their game, and obviously put in a couple more speedy players just to counteract that. But I think you're right. The Ducks got to play their game, Eddie.
Yeah, that's for sure. And we don't want to get into that either. I think with the shootouts, I think we'll see a couple games. I wouldn't be surprised to see another 6-3 kind of game with the offensive talent in this game. But I think realistically, you want to limit those types of games, and you want to stick to the what's made the Ducks successful, and the forecheck and everything is and the physicalness of their play, and just being able to win those key faceoffs and keep puck possession in the offensive zone is what's been key to the Ducks. And if we have to squeak out a couple more one goal wins and last minute wins, I don't think my heart can take it. But if they win, I'll be happy either way.
Yeah, I agree. That may happen too. There may be a couple one goal games and whatnot. Going to the special teams here, the way it looks here is, Calgary did decent in the regular season. They were 18.8 on the power play, and they obviously picked it up in the playoffs at 27.8. The Ducks were 15.7 during the regular season, and they picked it up as well as 27.3. So the power play numbers are very similar. Obviously, Calgary was better over the season. So I kind of give them a slight edge there. If you look at the penalty kill, the Ducks got better at the penalty kill. They were 81% during the season. Now they're 84%. Where the Flames have kind of gone down. They're at 81%. So it's kind of even numbers. The Ducks are a little bit down on the power play, not by much, obviously, and then they're a little bit ahead on the penalty kill. But I kind of give an advantage to the Flames on the power play. Special teams a little bit, Eddie, just because you look at the way that they played against Vancouver, especially this last game. They get down 3-0 and they just come back, and I think that's something that the Ducks have to be mindful of. If they get on a roll, especially in a special team situation, the Ducks, they got to play their game. And not only if the Ducks get a lead or get behind, but they need to do it for 60 minutes because one thing we know about the Flames is they never quit.
Yeah, and you got to be mindful too, is Vancouver came into that series having one of the best penalty kills in the league going in, and Calgary pretty much ripped it apart, and just had a great series on the power play. And we're gonna probably, I could see us bringing in Wisniewski, which could help, but you gotta be careful in that situation. And it's not like the Flames have been great on the penalty kill, but I think it's gonna come down for us if we have to be good on the penalty kill. We can't let them get these power play goals. And obviously you're gonna see that Monahan, Hudler, Goudreau, Weidman, and Russell probably on the power play for that first pairing. And they all can score on that, and we're gonna have to be it's gonna be key to be able to kill off those penalties. And with Newski jumping in too, I think we're gonna have to gel quickly. And even if we don't score on every power play, we're gonna have to get a few key goals here and there. And but like you said, I think you got to give a slight edge to Calgary just based on their consistency on the power play in the regular season.
Yeah, and I think the key too, which the Ducks really did well in the first round, was their composure, Eddie. We've seen so many times in the last couple seasons where the Ducks would get frustrated and take penalties that were unnecessary, and yeah, obviously sometimes the refs would throw an extra 2 minutes on for unsportsmanlike or whatnot on the Ducks, but we've seen the Ducks get frustrated and just take penalties that they didn't need to. And they did not do that in the series against the Jets. The Ducks had really good composure. A few penalties here. Obviously, there's always going to be some, but I thought the Ducks really clamped down on that aspect of their game in the first round, and I think they're really, really going to need to do that against the Flames in this round, Eddie.
Yeah, you always got to do. You don't want to take stupid penalties, especially against a good power play team. And you're gonna see the scrums up to the whistle, and you're gonna see guys like Joe Corborn and Michael Furland and Derek Anglin in these scrums trying to draw penalties. And we'll probably see Kessler and Perry in there, and you got to be careful in these situations. You don't want to trade off, Perry or Kessler for Michael Fairland or Derek Englund, an offsetting minors or something like that. You don't want to take these dumb penalties. And we saw Winnipeg take some dumb penalties, and we talked about that, and we were pretty sure that was going to happen based on how they played during the season, and especially against a team that's good on the power play, and we made them pay, and you don't want to do these dumb penalties, and then Calgary's going to make us pay. So, yeah, we just definitely got to be careful in those scrums after the whistle.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's going to be the key, like you said. Going on the penalty kill. The last area really to look at is going to be the goalies, and we know Anderson's going to be in net. There's no controversy, even though some people had started the playoffs. The uninformed experts had started saying that in the beginning, but we know it's going to be Anderson. The question is with Calgary, they rolled with Hiller the whole series. He got pulled 2 times. Game two, he gave up 3 goals, and then this last game, he gave up 2 quick goals early on. The numbers are very similar. Anderson and Hiller both have a 2.2 goals against in the playoffs. Anderson's save percentage is a 9.24. Hiller is a 9.31. Obviously, Anderson only played 4 games, so the numbers are going to be a little bit, different than Hiller playing, basically, I guess 5 in a period, because he got pulled in the middle of the second and then early in the sixth game. But I think the key in this one is definitely going to be Anderson. He's been on a roll. He's been in the zone. And we talked about Hiller. We all know Hiller. Some of you love him, some of you don't. But the key in this one, Eddie, for me, is the Ducks scoring early. The Ducks score early. We remember Hiller getting frustrated and getting down, and that's what the Ducks are going to have to do. They're going to have to get a goal, early on and roll. But even then, on top of that, like we said, the Ducks are going to have to keep playing because we saw what happened last night. Vancouver got 3 early, and they ended up losing. So.
Yeah, and I think you do have to give the slightest to the Ducks, and I kind of hate when I say I've said this, and I hate when you hear it and say, well, the Ducks have experienced shooting on Hiller, so it's gonna be it's going to be easy win for us. But I think that doesn't really apply. But I think the only reason it could be a good thing for the Ducks here is Hiller's a right, he's a right-handed goalie. He catches with his right hand, and you don't see that often. And usually it takes some teams a period, a game, 2 games to get adjusted to that. They're used to shooting blocker side on the goalie, and they're shooting at his glove, and he's able to easily snag it on with a right-handed goalie. And you know, I think the advantage there is the Ducks have been used to shooting on Hiller in practice, and we saw a lot of shootout games in the season with the 6-3, 3-6-3 games, and I think the Ducks just are able to pinpoint the areas where to shoot on a right gloved goalie, and I think that's going to be a slight advantage for us going into this series.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, like you said, most goalies don't play that way. They usually have the glove on the left side, but I think that there's not going to. I mean, the Ducks are going to adjust their shots accordingly, but I don't think it's going to be that big of an adjustment. Having gone against them in practice for the last several seasons before he left Anaheim, I really think the Ducks have an advantage. I don't think it's a slam dunk advantage, as some people are out there saying that. We're just going to blow Hiller up. I think you can't really say that. You got to look at how he played during the season and the playoffs. And even though he got pulled in those 2 games, the other games he played, he only gave up 1 or 2 goals. So he played really, really well in the other games. To me, the key is early on. If you can get to him early, that's when he loses his confidence, and you can see when he tilts his head back in frustration and whatnot. And we're all familiar with that. I think that's really the key idea is just getting some goals within the first 5 to 10 minutes of the first period, and just jumping on the Flames defense early.
Yeah, and you still want to get guys in front of him too. We said this Pavlik too, and you want to get guys like Maroon and Perry and other guys right in front of the net and getting some screens on them. And the other thing about Hiller too is he's a really good blocking goalie. So when he pretty much plays like he has 2 blockers. He'll make glove saves, but they'll kind of bounce around out of the glove and drop down right in front of him. He's got to cover it, so you got to be ready for those rebounds and don't be afraid to shoot at the glove side. Usually on other goalies, you want to shoot blocker side on them, but Hill is a really good goalie with the blocker, so I think shoot glove side on them, get those rebounds, and try and pot a few away.
So there you have it. We looked at all the aspects of both teams. And what do you think, Eddie? What's your prediction for this series? How many games? Who's going to win? What do you think?
I don't know. Last time I gave Winnipeg the benefit of the doubt at home with the 5 games, and obviously we ended up getting the sweep. But it's tough. the Red Mile is going to be rocking in Calgary, and but it's just with this 20 games unbeaten at Honda Center for the Ducks against the Flames, and it's hard. I'm not going to say sweep because I don't want to be overconfident, so I'm going to say 5 games, and that's nothing to say anything bad against Calgary. I just think the Ducks are too deep, and I just can't see it going. 6 games maybe, but I'm leaning more towards 5.
Yeah, that's kind of what we did last time, and I kind of feel the same way. I think the Ducks can take them out in five, but it may go six. It really just depends. Like you said, if the Ducks take care of business those first 2 games at home, then I think they can do it in five. But if not, we may be in for a little bit longer haul. It may go to six, but I think the Ducks should be able to pull out the series. There's no reason why not. We've got the more experienced team. We've seen them go through 2 seasons of playoff disappointment, and after that first series, you can tell that they don't want to be disappointed. And I think a big sign was Kessler's comments after the sweep. He said, "Yeah, it was great to sweep, but I didn't come here to win a series. We came here to go all the way." And that's the mindset in the Ducks locker room is it is one game at a time, like that cliche that everybody talks about. But the Ducks have high hopes. They have this never say die attitude, and I think that they should be able to push through the Flames here and get to the Western Conference Finals, Eddie.
Yeah, and just a quick thing too. Minnesota just a little live update here. Minnesota just beat St. Louis 4-1 and took the series. So Minnesota is going to be playing Chicago on that other series. Just looking a little bit ahead here, who would you rather face if we were to get to the Western Conference Final? Would you rather face, a Chicago team, or would you rather face the Minnesota Wild?
Well, honestly, both of those teams are playing really well. We talked about Minnesota. We said we didn't want to face them in the first round. That was one of the teams we didn't want to play because they had picked up their play. And then Chicago, before they got Kane back, we were like, oh, okay, no big deal. Now that they have Kane back, Chicago's a big deal. Both those teams are going to be tough. I wouldn't want to play either one. If I had a choice, I would probably go with Minnesota that I would want to play. And the only reason there is just because they don't have as much of the playoff experience as the Blackhawks do. The Blackhawks have really good playoff experience. Obviously between them and the Kings in the last 4 or 5 years, have done extremely well. And they had our number during the regular season, Eddie. We did not play well against the Blackhawks in the regular season, where Minnesota we did. So I'd rather go with Minnesota. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I just want to go. I'd go with Minnesota too. Obviously Crawford's in a funk now, but I don't want to bet on that. And obviously we'll see if that continues into this next series for Chicago and Minnesota. But Minnesota's got some threats of their own with Parise, Palmerville, Granlund, Vanek. They've got a Niederreiter. They've got a really good team there too, and Dubnik's played well moving into the playoffs for them as well. But we'll have to see if he can carry that on. But like you said, I think it comes down to his. Lately, we've played really well against Minnesota. Even in Minnesota, we've played well too, and been able to scrape a lot of one-goal games in the last few seasons. So I think if I had to pick, I'd rather play Minnesota. But we still got to get through this series against Calgary, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to look ahead, but that's just my thought. If all goes well, which we are hoping. Some other updates too. The Ducks had a watch party over at Honda Center for Game 4 when the Ducks clinched against the Jets. Went pretty well. There was over 2,000 fans there. Phil Hewitt was there early, pumping up the crowd. Wild Wing was there. They gave away an autograph stick. You could bring food and drink there. Obviously, anything goes as far as that, except for alcoholic beverages, which they serve there at the event. But it was a good event, and I was told by the Ducks management that they're going to have another one, obviously, for Game 4 against the Flames. So once we know the schedule, look out for that, and I hope everybody goes and gets pumped up. And speaking of getting pumped up, a lot of fans also asking about different merchandise items, and so we ended up adding the Fowl Towels, which I'll have in the next couple days. You can either buy them separately or you can add it on to whatever shirt that you buy through the website on dnphockey.com, and no extra shipping on there. They're pretty lightweight, so I can throw them in there on the shirt for everybody. And we've already had people getting some purchases, so that's been going well. And a lot of t-shirt designs that we're working on, trying to get all those cranked out. There's a new Getzloff one up there. We have a Raquel one coming as well that I think you guys will all enjoy, especially after that goal that he scored in Game 3. So that'll be a good one to watch for. And we're also doing car decals. That was another thing that people hit up. I actually placed the order today for a bunch of those. Same deal with the towels. You can add them in with a shirt, and should have those probably in the end of this week too, Eddie. So we're just trying to do some things to pump up everybody. I think the last big thing is really just us, Eddie, going to the game. Watching these other fans paint it white and or whiteout as they called it for them, and red in Calgary as we need to get Honda Center orange. And I'm going to wear my Stadium Series jersey. And I think everybody else should try to wear as much orange as possible if they can at these games, Eddie.
Yeah, I know. I think that's the big thing too. We've seen it, Nashville's, yellow, and like you said, Winnipeg is the whiteout, and Calgary's Red Mile. They're all going to be wearing red, and Washington, everybody's wearing red, and I think if we got the slogan painted orange, I don't want to tell everybody what to wear, but I think it'd be cool to see everybody wearing orange. I've been wearing my Stadium Series jersey here since the beginning of the playoffs to go with the painted orange thing. So I think you know. It would be cool to see everybody wearing orange, but it's not gonna be a big deal. But it would be nice to see a kind of whiteout thing with the painted orange in Honda Center for game 1 and 2.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm hoping. That was another idea I pushed out there. I'm hoping that the third jersey next year has an orange tint to it too, because that'll help out. Not as many people obviously bought the stadium jersey, so you're gonna have to either wear one of the orange shirts they have, or one of the ones you got from us, or something else orange. But that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping more fans will paint it orange, and we can kind of get that going, because it's I mean, to watch those other fans, it's exciting. I mean, you gotta respect that from the other fan bases, and I think we're getting there, and I'm hoping we push through in this next round. And the loudness of the crowd has definitely been there for the Ducks fans. That is not a question to me at all. I would just like visually to see a sea of orange, and I think that would help the team even more. You know what I mean, Eddie? Just pump it up.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think that that would help them out a bit more, and even though I'm sure they give out free t-shirts at the game, right? So I watched a couple of the national games, and you see 90% of the crowd wearing those free yellow t-shirts. So I think even if you get the free t-shirt in the game, you put it over your jersey, and just so you have orange in the crowd, I think it'll be you don't know for sure, but it could be a big boost for the players too, just looking up and seeing everybody wearing orange.
Yeah, definitely. And that's going to wrap it up for this week. Obviously we'll come back next week, depending on the schedule. We'll either wrap up games 1 and 2, or just one. We'll just figure out what's going on, and we're trying to get more and more, ideas out on the merchandise and get things going. I've gotten a little bit more help, which has helped us out. So there's more stuff coming every couple of days. Check back on the website, and I really appreciate the comments from everybody this week. A lot of people, Eddie, were telling us that they were happy about just us keeping the fan base informed, and trying to basically be I don't know, like the hype man or something. I don't know, but just trying to get it going. A lot of people out there really appreciate it, and I appreciate it. I know you do, and all the staff here appreciates it too. We're just trying to just keep getting hockey bigger and bigger in Southern California, especially for Ducks fans, and keep you guys entertained and educated, and with our funny photos and videos we throw out there on Twitter and Facebook, and just really appreciate all of the positive feedback. And we're just going to keep it rolling. Not just this season. Next season we'll be back, obviously, and just keep everything going. Thanks for listening.
The Anaheim